Chapter 12, Part 14, Unexpected Guess. As the sun began to edge further down towards the west, the clove settled by a small brook and began to gather up dry wood for a fire. Once the campfire was lit, he sat down against a round boulder, stretching out and sighing, very much pleased with himself. That was until his belly rumbled hungrily and he realized that he had not brought any food with him. He sighed again as he glanced about the long shadows. It was too dark to forage or sneak up on any small animals he might find. He searched through his pockets for string to set some snares, hoping to catch some meat for dinner and perhaps hopefully breakfast in the morning, when he heard something rustling in the trees. The clove's hand silently reached for a rock while his yellow eyes spotted a small hairy critter staring down at him with glowing green eyes. After a closer look, he realized it was a black cat staring down at him from the tree branches. The clove hungrily licked his lips and got ready to throw the smooth round a stone toward his prey. He was very good with a knife, but he wasn't about to risk losing it in the dark. A well-placed stone was more than adequate to do the job, but just as he leaned back to take aim, something came up and bit him on the shoulder. The clove dropped the stone and shouted in pain and surprise as his hand instinctively reached for his sword. But then a powerful shove sent him somersaulting head over heels into his campfire. "You had better stop thinking what I know you're thinking, Pyro," growled an angry but all too familiar voice echoing inside the clove's head. It was Ethra, the unicorn. "I just built that fire," the clove pressed it as he frankly shook out the hot embers from his shirt. The snow-white unicorn snorted in disdain and glanced up at the black cat in the trees. "I told you this was a bad idea, Kida," she snapped. The cat hopped out of the tree, and in a flash of white light, where the cat had once been, a scrawny, wild-looking girl with raven black hair stood in its place. "What the hell?" she snapped back at the unicorn. "This was your idea!" The clove looked around in bewilderment. "Whatever I did was an accident," he began. "My name is a clove. The fairies tricked me and took away my memories." One of the memories that he had lost was of Ethra trampling and disemboweling an entire troop of hunters. And so he quickly began trying to explain himself. "My name is a clove. The fairies tricked me and took away my memories. But I had them now. I broke the curse." For proof, he drew his father's cutlass. "I can even wield my sword." "We know," they snapped back at him in unison. The clove blinked and tilted his head. "You do?" he asked, confusion written all over his face. "Then why did she bite me?" Kida glared at Ethra. "That was completely immature," the shifter growled. "How do you expect him to take us seriously now?" Ethra snorted. "My actions were justified. He was going to eat you, and I should remind you that I am by far your elder." She harumphed and stooped down to drink from the cool brook. Kida's eyes widened and she looked at the clove in disgust. "How revolting! A cat, really? I would expect that from an orc, but you?" she scowled. "After I changed my mind, this was a terrible idea." The clove growled as he began kicking the red embers back into the ring of stones, trying to salvage the dying campfire. "You could have said something," he muttered under his breath. while pondering how old the unicorn was, if Kita was 300 years old. "I could have said something," Ethra replied, "but I didn't feel like it, and yes, I am much older than she is." The closed eyes narrowed, and his fingers clenched tightly together. "I didn't say anything," he snapped at the unicorn. Ethra, however, gave the clove a smug look. "If you are not comfortable with me reading your thoughts, I suggest you say what's on your mind. I find it very rude when people think one thing and say another." "You are being very rude," Kita agreed. The clove's yellow eyes flashed angrily. "Some might say the same about you. What are you doing here?" Ethra gave the clove a sideways glance. "Much better," she whinnied, and looked toward Kita. "It was your idea. You tell him." Kita glared at the clove. "We need you to help us find the iron staff of summoning." The clove raised his eyebrows and sat back on his rock. The clove raised his eyes and sat down on his rock. "What makes you think I want to help you?" Kita sighed. "Well, we need a warrior and thought of you." The clove stoked the crackling flames. "Well, isn't that a relief? I am not interested." He glanced back over at Ethra. "How?" But Ethra finished his sentence before the words could leave his mouth. "How did we find you?" she asked. The clove's eyes widened, but he kept his mouth shut and waited for her to reply. "I can travel quite quickly if I wish," she explained. "Not only from place to place, but into other dimensions, and times, and places. Kita is my friend and my helper, but sometimes we need assistance to set things right." The clove tilted his head. "Surely I am not the only warrior out here." Kita let out a deep, pent-up breath. "That is true, but the realm that I have been tasked to watch, you are the one in the right place and in the right time. We need you to help us prevent something terrible from happening." The clove arched his brows, and his eyes became stern. "What terrible thing? Because I have seen bad things happen, and I have done bad things," he snapped angrily. "Where were you then?" Worried, Kita glanced at Ethra. The unicorn's deep black eyes didn't waver. "You speak of Nobetha." The clove's eyes narrowed. "If you can pass through time and change that, perhaps then I will help you get your iron stick," he said somberly. "And if I did that, would you be here as you are now?" Ethra asked. "Would you still have your sight?" "If Nobetha knew what hung in the balance, she would have wanted you to help us." The clove clenched his teeth, clearly uncomfortable at how much the unicorn knew about his past. "What exactly do you want me to do?" Ethra nodded approvingly and turned toward Kita. The shifter took a deep breath and explained, "We need you to find the iron staff of summoning, which is hidden inside the mountain just west of here, and bring it to us." The clove's eyes narrowed. "Why do you need me to get this staff for you? You can just tear a hole out of thin air and arrive in a single step." "This is a sacred mountain," Kita explained. "Many spells were cast over to prevent Ethra and other powerful agents from entering it." The clove tilted his head. "Why can't you just get it yourself?" he asked. "Kita can enter it." Ethra explained. But she cannot touch the staff. You are the only one who would not use it or let it fall into the wrong hands. What makes you so sure of that? Leclos demanded. Ethra raised her majestic white head, and her large black eyes bored into his. I cannot help but know certain things, because this is who I am. I see your innermost thoughts and know your fears. I have seen the things you have done. I saw you fight off Enthrallin, and I've also seen the things that you will do in the future, but I am not permitted to reveal them to you. The Clove grinned malevolently. So you think you know me? What am I going to say next? Ethra's black eyes delved deeper into his. I think we can convince you, she stated tranquilly. Is that so? Leclos said, albeit a little bit less defiantly as the correct guess from the unicorn. He had doubted the pair could talk to him into accepting this quest. Ethra bobbed her large head slightly. I have no mistake, Leclos. It is rare when fate intervenes this way, unless it is absolutely necessary. She stepped forward, planting her hoof firmly on Leclos' foot. Leclos frowned and glanced down. If you crush my foot, then how am I supposed to help you? And maybe I have already did. And Jez came back to see the expression of pain on your face again. Leclos clenched his teeth, and his muscles strained as he tried to pull his foot away. Finally he gave up, and his hand shot to his sword. Limb for limb, he replied somberly. Wait, Keita said quickly. We can compensate you somehow. But Leclos only laughed. There is nothing you have that will convince me to go anywhere near that mountain, he declared firmly. Not even a flying ship? Ethra asked. Leclos paused, and his eyes narrowed. I have to see it first, he admitted. The unicorn released Leclos' foot and stepped back and began pacing around the campfire. No. You'll have to find it yourself, I'm afraid. Leclos frowned. That doesn't make any sense, he grunted as he massaged his sore foot. Ethra nodded sagely. If you help us, you will alter the thread of time and fate, she explained. You'll have the ability to seek out whatever you wish. I am not really giving you anything. I am merely offering you the opportunity to prevent an apocalypse that would affect even your unlikely future. Leclos cursed under his breath and then growled, I'm finished dealing with magic. This can only end badly. Keita spoke up again. Ethra, it's no use. We were wrong. Not all pyros are fearless warriors after all, she interjected. Leclos' eyes suddenly blazed with anger, and he whirled around and glared at Keita. You don't know anything about my kind, he snarled. Yes, unfortunately I do, Ethra sighed. They're smelly, irrational savages that never back down from a fight, at least from what I've seen over the centuries. Leclos chuckled. I see what you're doing, and you're wrong. I am completely rational. I have had enough dealings with magic, and the last time I tried to help you, you tried to kill me, he stated flatly. You're right, Ethra. He isn't like the others, Keita sighed. The unicorn snorted and held her head up. I said he wasn't brave enough to do it. I bet he won't even get past the enchanted forest, let alone the base of the mountain, she replied dismissively. Leclos glared at the unicorn. I made it through the accursed bogs and fought in Thrallin. You think I'm afraid of some forest? He paused and then asked, "Which way is the enchanted forest?" "North," said Kita. "South," Ethra corrected her. Laclove smirked. Obviously, one was lying. "And so, at first light, I'm going west," he declared firmly. Kita snickered. "Toward the Necromancer's fortress near the Valley of the Damned." Laclove frowned. "A Necromancer?" he asked, "as in—" "A master of the darkest arts and summoner of the undead," Ethra interrupted. "Which is why we need you to get the staff before he does." Laclove laughed weakly. "I should just be able to slip right on by," he quipped. Kita pulled out a pocket knife and began whittling a dead stick. "Not likely," she said grimly. "His armies are always hunting for people to retrieve the staff for himself." Laclove raised his eyebrows and scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Well, I'll head south then," he declared. "Through the phoenix nesting grounds and the burning sulphur marshes." "Now that is impressive," Ethra remarked. Laclove clenched his teeth and cursed under his breath, and then turned the way he had come. "Or you could go back the way you came. I'm sure the Oracle will have forgotten all about you by now," Ethra mused. Laclove's jaw tightened. He hated how she read his thoughts. "What makes this staff so hard to get?" he asked. "Why haven't any of his servants succeeded?" "This mountain fortress was created by the dragon's lords long ago to prevent the staff from being wielded by a mortal hand. Inside the mountain is a maze and other obstacles. The way is protected by the inhabitants that are loyal to the dragons," she explained. And then she nodded at Kita. "She has a copy of the original map. We just need you to follow it." "Why would they make a map?" he asked. "Doesn't that defeat the purpose of a maze? Why not grind the staff up into powder or toss it into a sulphur marsh? No one would bother to look for it there." "The dragons wanted to be the only ones to control the staff. Of course, not all of them agreed, so they brought it here," Kita explained. Laclove nodded. "So it's safe." He chimed cheerfully. "We can just leave it where it is and let the dragons take care of their own problem." "No, because the dragons are the problem," Kita snapped. "Some are loyal to Caledra, and some have agreed to help the Necromancer. You are the only one we can trust to retrieve the staff before it is used to open doors that should not be opened. We have dispatched many warriors to intercept the dragon, but so far it has eluded every one. You must get the staff before he does." Laclove scratched his head and glanced in the direction of the sulphur marshes. "That sounds complicated," he remarked. "All you have to do is follow Kita and retrieve the staff," Ethra insisted. Laclove let out a mock sigh of relief. "Oh, good, because I thought you were going to involve me in some sort of giant mess." "We thought you were a brave warrior," said Kita. Laclove folded his arms over his chest. "Actually, I am, but there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity." Ethra raised her head. "Logic from a pyro. This I want to hear," she said sarcastically. Laclove gave the unicorn a curt nod. "Seeing that fate has sent you to scraping the bottom of the barrel, at least I should get a meal out of this," he growled. The raven-haired girl snickered loudly. "Why didn't you say you were hungry?" "I have provisions to spare," she declared as she unslung a canvas sack from her shoulders, setting out dried blueberries, roots, a honeycomb, and a jar of pickled fish. "What else do you want?" Ethra asked. Laclove grimaced as he looked at the jar of pickled fish. Some sort of sandwich with bacon in it? He said as he sat down. Kita laughed as she divided up the food on 2 large green leaves. He's getting the best of you, Ethra, she said. The Clove shrugged modestly. Even I don't know what I will think of next, he laughed as he broke out a piece of the honeycomb to eat with the bitter roots. Ethra snorted and looked out into the dark forest. Wonderful, she said dryly. Eat and get your rest. We will leave at first light. Oh, hell! What kind of fish is this? The Clove explained as he opened the jar. Pickled trout, Kita announced. The Clove glanced over and was surprised to see the black cat sitting next to him, waiting impatiently. The Clove pulled out the foul-smelling fish and quickly shoved it into his mouth and swallowed it with a grimace. Some things were never meant to be pickled, he grunted as he set the jar in front of the cat. They taste so much better as a cat, Kita mewed happily. The Clove arched his eyebrows skeptically and propped his back up against a tree. Cats taste much better, he agreed. You troll! Kita hissed at him angrily, but the Clove only chuckled and closed his eyes. The morning came quickly. Ethra was already pacing around the campsite. Kita, we need to get going, she whinnied impatiently. The Clove awoke with a loud yawn, stretched out his arms, and glanced down to see the black cat still sleeping peacefully on his lap. What do you think I am? He demanded, pushing the cat off of him. Akita hissed loudly and flailed about, somehow landing on her feet as cats always did. You looked cold, Kita mewed angrily, and quickly hopped onto the unicorn's back. The Clove grunted in annoyance and brushed off his pants. Now I have fur everywhere, he growled. I have received word that the dragon has been sighted near the mountain, Ethra explained. We need to hurry. Turning his head to the side, the Clove blinked. You didn't say anything about having to fight a dragon, he remarked. You won't have to. We're going to beat it there, she declared. As the tip of her horn began to glow, Ethra stepped forward and sliced a black seam into the fabric of their dimension. Go, this will take you directly to the base of the mountain. Where are you going? the Clove asked. Just follow Kita and get the staff. I must tend to other things, she instructed. The Clove scratched his chin thoughtfully and looked at the black void. Don't bother. I can almost see the mountain from here, he announced before a strong force shoved him forward. Hello. You're listening to the Dragon Scourge. If you'd like to support me, this book is for sale on Amazon, both in paperback and digital format. If you'd like a signed copy, you can send a request to thedragonscourge@gmail.com. Alright, have a wonderful day.